This event is being hosted by the Bellwether Magazine. The Bellwether Magazine is a magazine dedicated to entrepreneurs and business people where stories matter. We don't have ads, and it's free to contributors and subscribers. So if you'd like to contribute to the magazine, please reach out to me or leave a note in the chat, and I will send you some information on that. But your content always remains your content. You own it forever. We don't copyright it. We just share it on your behalf. Um, so I'm sure many of you have met Tanya. If you have not met Tanya, Tanya is this is Tanya Brockett. She's a ghostwriter, editor, podcast host, a book coach, and she guides people that are learning to write or wanting to write bestsellers. So she's for nearly 2 decades. That's as long as I've been around. Maybe uh, but so Tanya, she's coached hundreds of authors, trained thousands of business and publishing, and reviewed and written millions of pages of content that's been delivered to her. Tanya focuses on the holistic entrepreneur whose goal is to share a positive message with the world and wants to create a bestseller worthy nonfiction book. That is her niche, is nonfiction. I'm sure she can write fiction, but that's just not where she thrives at. And I think all of us being entrepreneurs, we want to write nonfiction. So Tanya's taught both entrepreneurship and book publishing at the University of Virginia. So she's not just someone coming on here giving an opinion. This is an educated topic that Tanya spent years and years perfecting, and she is an authority in the space. So she's the founder of Halogen Inc. She's also the managing editor at the Bellwether Magazine and the host of Write Something Worthy podcast. She's also a board member at the Prolific Writers Life. So that being said, please welcome Tanya Brockett and take away a ton of value.
Thank you. Yes, a round of applause. Thank you, Michael, so much. I absolutely appreciate you. All right, so in furtherance of trying to make technology work for us, I'd like to share my screen with you, and hopefully I'll share the right thing. So, welcome to the Influence Equation. And my intention today is to help you to learn some different ways of leveraging yourself as a bestseller and why we should care about that. Why do we even care? But thank you, Michael, for the introduction and for creating this space and this opportunity that the Bellwether Magazine is offering for us entrepreneurs, authorpreneurs, and others to learn from and to be a part of. So thank you, Michael, for that opportunity.
Very welcome.
All right, as he said, I'm your host, dose, and coach. I published my first book way back in 2007. And that was, I don't even know that. I guess that was after I spent my time at the University of Virginia teaching others how to write their books and make an impact in the world with their words. I want to thank you, first of all, for your time today. I know it is precious, and I intend to make it worth every drop of every minute for you. So let's have some fun, let's learn a few things, and let's make a difference in the world. What I get to do on a regular basis is work with awesome authors all around the globe and help them to create positive messages in the world. And you know, all of these authors who choose to work through our programs to become a bestseller, I am so excited to be able to say that 100% of them do. Some of them are on this call right now, and they have become bestsellers by working with me and my team at Halogen Inc. And I'm so excited that 100% of them who choose to become bestsellers. It shouldn't surprise you then that I want to continue that track record. I don't want to ruin that. So you don't want to be the first one to mess that up. Um, I want to continue being able to provide that excitement and that thrill for all of my clients. And believe me, I am thrilled to work with all of my clients in that way. It is absolutely a joy for me, and you'll learn some of that as we go along today. But one of the things that I would love for you to be able to do at some point is join that 100% club. I have to admit, though, that it's not always everyone's goal to be a bestseller. There are a lot of reasons for that, and we're going to talk about that later. But when I wrote my first book, I also was not striving to be a bestseller. I was totally clueless. I didn't even know that was a possibility. I, you know, was, I didn't have me back then. I didn't have me. I didn't have my colleague, Kathy, who helped me to make bestsellers out of every client that comes my way. We didn't have the authority package back then so that we could just easily step into the process. I had to go through this all on my own. Never mind, I had a small press who was the publisher for this book, but I still had to figure out how to get it all done. I had a business. I was consulting with clients and I was helping them to get money and launch their businesses, grow, harvest, and exit. I didn't have time to figure out how to write a daggone book, but I had to manage to do that anyway. So it took a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I had, I have forms in here. I've got pages that I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do to get this information across? But my intention was that I wanted all of my clients to be able to come to me already knowing a certain baseline of information. Step 5, I told them, get this book, get to step 5, then you can make an appointment. Don't talk to me until then. So that was my intention for the book rather than necessarily bestseller status. But what I was able to leverage the book to do was to garner the nomination for the U.S. Small Business Administration Financial Advocate of the Year. I did so many loans for so many businesses in that year that I had this book, that I launched the book, that I received that nomination. So even though I wasn't striving to be the best known person in the world, I was able to leverage that book to actually make a positive difference in my life and in my business. One of the things that thrills me to no end is that I get to create the results for my clients that makes them happy. Now, it is a little bit self-serving because I get a thrill out of it. I like it too. And I like seeing them all excited, holding up the book and saying, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my God. And you're going to get to feel that too if you haven't already. Once you write that book, some of you are already authors, right? And now you're going to be looking for becoming an author the next time, and your next bestseller and your next bestseller. You're going to get this feeling, hopefully, every time. You write the book and you're like totally freaked out and excited. You then, go to print with the book and you're like, oh my God, all right, no more changes. This is it. Oh my gosh. And then you hold your first copy in your hands and you're like, it's real. My baby's been born and there's no taking it back now. It's there. And then you launch the book out to the world so everybody else knows your baby is here, right? So now all right, it's known, everybody knows it's out there. And when you actually see your book with that bestseller label, #1 bestseller, whatever level bestseller it is, but all of my clients, I'm just checking my math here, all of my clients have been #1 bestsellers, not just bestsellers. You can be bestseller and be on the list, right? But I believe all of mine have been #1. So, so when you get to see that with your book, that's really an exciting feeling. And for me, part of the thrill of it all is that I helped you to get your message out of your heart and your mind and share that so that you can continue to share that in perpetuity. So exciting. So I'm just thrilled that I get to do that. So today, I hope you won't mind that if I try to spend our time together, giving you as much as I can about the whole complicated process of publishing and writing a book and getting it out there and making it a bestseller. Now, I recognize, as Michael said, I've been at this for about 2 decades. So there's no way that I'm going to impart 2 decades of wisdom to you today in this little bit of time that we have together. But I promise you that I will give you as much as I possibly can in the time that we have and give you a way that we can continue to do this together at some other point. Now, what I want you to promise me is that you're going to put your credit cards away and oh my gosh, I'm going to have to buy something. This is a sales pitch, because that is not true. You will have no opportunity to buy anything today. This is all content for you that you can take action on. You can take action on what you learn, but you're not going to be able to pull out a credit card and do anything about it. So I want you to take this and take action and learn from it, apply it. That's how you fill your purse, with that knowledge. So put a yes in the chat if you are ready to make that deal and you're ready to dig in. Anybody with me? You wait, put your cards away. You're just going to learn. You're going to take all this great stuff we're going to throw out at you, but we're going to do it in nice bite-sized nuggets so that you can consume it easily. Okay? All right. All right, y'all. So let's go. First, did you guys know that 97% of all Americans who want to write a book never even finish it? Never finish that book. And then of those who do, only 20% of them actually publish it. Now, that's kind of amazing that there's still 4 million books that can come out and get published each year, because that means there are a lot of people who are not giving their words. They're not sharing their messages with the world. But, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are just throwing a bunch of schlock out there on Amazon just so they can try to make a quick buck, right? So if that is your intention, then you and I will never have to work together, and we can be happy about that. Because what I focus on is bestseller worthy books. So those books, even if you don't strive for bestseller status, you don't get in our authority package program to make that happen, even if you don't do that, your book will be worthy of bestseller status by virtue of the quality, information, and presentation within that book. So I would like to ask you, how many of you are or have been working on a book and for some time? You've got an idea, you have already written some, you've written most of it, it's sitting on your desk. How many months? Type in a number, how many months or years you've been sitting on your book idea, your next book, whatever it is. Even if you published before, how many of you are sitting around holding on to that? I'm trying to see this chat at the same time, so we'll see if I can catch that. So there are so many people, yeah. Oh, wow. 25 years, 15 years, 10 years, 18 months. This is amazing. So there's a Maya Angelou quote, and I don't know it verbatim. I have to apologize. I have it somewhere in my office. That's why I'm looking around. It is that there's nothing quite like the burden of an untold story that stays within you. I apologize, Maya, for not saying that correctly, but that book needs to get out of you. That book needs to add value to someone else's life. So you're holding on to it inside is not helping anyone, and certainly not you. And I have to say that I'm perfectly biased, and I acknowledge it, but I think that working with a publishing expert can really help you to shorten your time to market and get that book out of you so that you can make a positive impact in the world. I want that for you. So what we're going to do today, some of the things that we're going to cover, we're going to talk about why you're not already a bestseller. And if you are a bestseller and you want to be a bestseller again, then you're going to have a little more fuel to add to that fire to make that so. We're going to talk about the best ways to write a good book. Whether or not you've got the talent or the time, we want to try to help you to move into that 3% club, right? So that you can join the elite that are actually going to get their books out into the world. and not just write it and sit it on your desk. We're going to talk about the different paths to publishing because there are different ways that you can get there. And I've helped my clients in all of those ways. So I can share that with you. We're going to talk about who needs to be on your team to make that happen. You know, how do I get this done? So remember, when I did my loan solution, I had no idea how to get it done. I didn't know who needed to be on my team. I didn't realize that working with a small press, I was going to have to find my own indexer. Had no idea. So we're going to talk about your team. And then we're going to talk about how to leverage your book for multiple streams of income. Because your book is not, no matter why you're writing the book, you might be writing the book to make a huge impact on the world, but there's no reason that that book should not become an asset that produces for you, that generates wealth for you, that creates income for you. You are worthy of it. So let's accept it, right? Let's get that. So we're also going to talk about why, when you write to serve, you have an even greater chance of being successful as an author and an entrepreneur. So excited to share all those things with you today. All right. Now, when I taught book publishing at the University of Virginia, I did this dream zapper exercise that helped to identify what their goals were, but also identify what's going to keep those goals from coming to fruition, right? And most of those students came in not realizing or not believing that they could actually write and then publish a book. So my question is that you? Is that something that you've got? Is that a reason why your book is still languishing after all these years? Is that the reason why your book is still collecting dust in some old computer platform? You probably have enough floppy disk, right? That we don't even use anymore because you haven't gotten that baby out. So now it is time. So one of the things that I say in my new writer workbook is that if you can't see it, you can't be it. And one of the exercises that I do in a program I have called Bebop, the Brocket book outline process, is to help you to visualize yourself as that successful author. Because one of the things we have is this fear that keeps us from putting ourselves out there. Oh man, if I put my words out there, then that means everybody's going to see them and people might judge them. And oh, I might not like what they say. I might not like the reviews. So we have to get over that. We have to visualize ourselves being that awesome author who is bringing a message that matters to the world. And one way we do that is to literally remember. One thing that I say oftentimes in my podcast, don't hog your journey. It is not just for you. Don't hog your journey. It is not just for you. All that learning, all that wisdom, all those experiences, all that excitement, all those horrible things that you had to overcome, all of those things weren't just for you. They were for you to share with the world so other people who are in the midst or right behind you can learn how to overcome that as well. So as nonfiction authors, we need to help people to move beyond where they are and get into a much better place. We need to see them and help them to elevate. And we do that through our words. And we have to recognize that we have power in our words and that our words are very important. Another reason a lot of people aren't bestsellers yet is because they just don't know the benefits of being one. They say, yeah, I wrote a book, I published it, I put it out there, but they didn't strive for the bestseller status because they didn't know that there were benefits to doing so. So I want to share with you some of those benefits of being a best-selling author. One of those benefits is legacy. You get to share legacy. You get to share a piece of yourself that will be here forever, in perpetuity. And when you have a best-selling book, you have that title forever as well. It is yours. No one can take that away from you. My colleague that I introduced earlier, Kathy, she says that becoming a bestseller is going to be like that lowest common denominator. You know, like in the old days where a high school diploma was the lowest common denominator, and then it became a bachelor's and so forth and so on. Being a best-selling author is going to become one of those things too. So we want to make sure that we have what it takes, and we show people that we have what it takes by being that best-selling author. Benefits also include just aligning with other bestsellers in your field, being able to share best practices, to be among that elite group, right? We're talking the less than 1% that actually get this done. You should feel pretty doggone good about yourself for having written that book and published that book. And then you went a step further and became a bestseller. Awesome. Awesome. So those are, will put you in different groups, in different environments, different circles sometimes. One time, as a matter of fact, I was at an author's event. You know, they were honoring authors at a festival of the book. I was sitting next to an author that I would have never otherwise known. She was writing like suspense and murder mysteries and stuff like that. I don't get into that. So I wouldn't have known her otherwise. But we were sitting in this environment because we were both being honored as authors there. And it is from her that I actually learned about the concept of a naked it. Naked its. And I'll tell you what that is. The naked it, I thought it was funny too. The naked it is when she said her editor shared this with her. When you have a subject in a sentence and you're talking about them and you're describing this, that, and the other, and then paragraphs later you say, it did this, that, and the other, and you're like, what it? Who's it? What it was that? Which it was it? So it's a naked it. You forget by the time you talked about that subject that it becomes naked. And so one of the funny things is just being in an environment where I was with another author who shared with me her naked its. And now I make sure my its are naked too. So anyway, there are lots of other benefits like creating negotiating leverage by being a best-selling author. That's one thing that's really awesome, because if you are, let's say that you have two authors that are going for a speaking engagement. You submit your proposal, you look great, they look great, but then they discover that you are also a best-selling author and the other one is not. Who do you think is more likely to get that nod for that speaking engagement? Yeah, it's likely to be you. So it allows you to step into places that you might not otherwise be seen. Oh, and Kathy, my colleague that I told you about, she said one of her clients, for example, that just totally exemplifies this. One of her clients tried to get into this, presentation group for years, and they would not accept him. They would not put him on the stage. They would not have him as a speaker. But then when Kathy made him a best-selling author, they came after him, trying to get him on the stage after he'd been trying all this time. So it is that leverage. It is that pushing you over the edge that some others will not have, that you will have as a best-selling author. The other thing you're going to learn, just like I did, you're going to learn about some other skills that you have in the process of getting that book done. And you may also learn more just by the virtue of writing that book, getting that message out, knowing who you're writing it for and the impact that it's about to make on them. It could make a positive impact on you as well. So being a bestseller actually goes beyond ego. It goes beyond just you. It allows others to grow. Remember, you're not hogging your journey, right? So it allows others to grow and it allows you to build your influence. It allows you to make a positive impact in the world. It allows you to make more money in the world. And we're going to talk about more money. As a matter of fact, I have one client whose book is traditionally published, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, who on my Write Something Worthy podcast, she shared with me that at 8 months after publishing this book and having it out there in the world, she was able to generate $8 million in revenue. Now, I need to put a disclaimer. Results are not typical. You know, she's a profit lady, all right? She's a profit coach. She's a fractional CFO. She knows she can look at your business and find money just looking in a minute or a second, actually. She doesn't take long. And so she knows how to make money, but she leveraged her book. It's not book sales that made $8 million for her. It is how she leveraged that book to make $8 million for her. And that's what I hope that you'll do as well. Okay. I'm getting too excited, I have to tell you. It's just like, wow, I love helping people be best-selling authors. So it's really fun and exciting. So how is it that you're going to write your best book, especially if you don't feel like you have all the talent and all the time in the world to make it so? Well, there are ways to do that. One is to just seek out the help of coaches, ghostwriters, editors. We're all available to help writers to get their words out. And you don't have to be the grammar queen or, you know, some meticulous writer in order to get a book out. You don't have to be the best writer in the world to write. Average writers publish great books because they have the right team behind them. They have the coaches, they have the editors. I mean, we talk about, I read Stephen King's book on writing, and you know his editor is like weeding and improving that book every time he writes one, even though he's written 1 million books, right? So every good writer has and should have an awesome editor, and that would make it so. Their books will be worthy because of the work that their team does, not just because of the words that come out of their mouth. Now, I have a great example of this, and this is Joseph Vitale, who, this story is one of the reasons why I do what I do. This man who was, you know, was born before World War II, so was a Marine, served in Korean War, built his own house, raised his kids in a Depression era. This man spent 5 years recording stories of his life on a cassette tape. His son, Joe Vitale, wanted to take that and make something of it. Wanted to make his father an author. Wanted his father to be an author on his 90th birthday, which was 3 or 4 months away. So I've got 5 years worth of cassette tapes, transcribed, repetitive stories, got to work through and weed through. Yeah, you told that story once. You told that story once. You told that story once. Weed through which one is the best version. Okay, I'll work through that. Had to go through, catalog all these stories, had to decide which versions of which story I wanted to use, had to correct how they would be presented, but not take away from his voice. And oh my God, it was the hardest project I'd ever had up to that time, but it was the most awesome and meaningful one ever. Because Joe, he has a video of this on YouTube. He presented this book to his father on his birthday. We got it not only written, edited, designed, printed, and produced, but shipped to his house by his birthday, which was like 3 to 4 months different between getting all those tapes and having this book. And his father was in tears with excitement. Now, here's the thing. There's an equation up there that says 200 down to 24, which is crossed out. On average, it takes about 200 hours, 200 to 300 hours to write a book. Now, me and my team already distilled that down to like 24 hours of your time to get a book done instead of that 200. Doesn't mean somebody else ain't working on that book, but it means your time is reduced down to 24. In this case, it was reduced to 0. I could not talk to this man because it was a surprise. I had no way of communicating, clarifying, or figuring out anything I had to make it so without speaking to the author at all. So no input from the author, and he has a beautiful, wonderful, compelling story in this fantabulous book. The other beautiful thing about this, though, why this matters so much to me is because he was able to read this book to his ailing wife and share his story, which she is a part of, in book form before she passed away. So awesome. So awesome. So wonderful things like that get to happen when you write a book. The impact that you make, you don't know how far it's going to go just by virtue of you're doing what you need to do, which is not hog your journey. All right. I have a question for you. I want you to put it in the chat. What percentage of nonfiction books do you believe are ghostwritten? What do you got? Give me some numbers. What percentage of books do you believe are ghostwritten? Yeah, we got some numbers, 25, 85, 70, 50. Good, good. Well, they do say, traditional publishing houses even acknowledge this, that as many as 70% of nonfiction books are written with or by a ghostwriter. And to take that even further, 99% of books that are published by artists, celebrities, politicians are with the help of a talented ghostwriter. That is a lot. So I have, I put friendly ghost up on this screen, right? Because there's nothing to fear. Don't fear the ghost. I even wrote a blog post about that, right? Don't fear the ghost. It's okay. We are friendly. We are here to help you to get your message out of your beautiful heart and mind and onto the page. That's our role. It's not our stuff, it's your stuff. We're just here to help you to get it out. We're the conduit to help you to lay it onto the page so that you don't have to write it yourself. So what that does for an entrepreneur, is that it gives you the opportunity to go off, making money, working with clients, getting more people, building more revenue, while we are actually writing the words and getting that book prepared so that you can then look awesome and make even more money when the book comes out. That is the beauty of having a ghostwriter. Now, one thing that people reject oftentimes with ghostwriters is they say, well, how can I call it mine? How can I, put my name on the bottom of a book that I didn't actually write? How do I do that? The reality is it's you, only better. It's you, only better, that we helped you to put out there. So there is zero shame in having a ghostwriter. Zero. You should know that because you are making the effort to get those words out into the world, you're doing the world a favor by getting that message out there. And if a ghost can help you to do that quicker, better, faster, easier, then that's fine. You got to get that message out into the world. So do it. Now, for those who love the craft of writing, and there are people who do, they love writing, that's great too. Just make sure that you have a good, solid book outline that can help you to make sure that you're getting the right message out for your ideal reader. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. So you can finish your own book if you did like 1,500 words a week writing, and you need to set a pattern for yourself and set up a system so that you'll make sure you get it done. But if you do that, you can finish your own book in a few months. But you're still going to have to go through other steps in the publishing process that we'll talk about later. All right, thanks for sharing your percentages. I'm surprised so many of you knew that so many ghostwritten books are out there, that it's not just Johnny Joe, whoever, writing that book all the time. Anyway, okay, so now we're going to talk about those primary paths to publishing so you can make sure that you position yourself in the right lane before you get started. So we want to figure out which one is going to be best for you. So the basic premise with traditional publishing is that you're going to work with an agent who's going to guide you through the securing of a publishing contract from a publisher who agrees to commit to produce and distribute your book. That's their goal, to get a book out and to a retailer. That's what publishers do. Now, to find that agent, you're going to have to write a query letter and a book proposal to get the representation. And one thing you should note as a nonfiction author, you do not have to write the whole book first. You only need a few sample chapters in your book proposal. So once an agent agrees to represent you, they're going to tweak that proposal and they're going to try to get a deal for you. So let's look at those steps on the basic path to traditional publishing. Now, this is really oversimplified because as Chris with Jet Launch will tell you, there are hundreds of steps to get through the publishing process. But in a nutshell, what you're going to have to do is write that proposal, write a query to try to attract an agent who will agree to represent you in front of publishers so that you can get that publishing contract and deal. If you want to screenshot this, you're welcome to do that if it'll help you to take notes on this. So then let's say you get an agent. It could take months before you actually get somebody who is interested enough to say, yeah, I think this is pretty good. I think you're good enough. Maybe you're worthy to be in that 1%, and I will represent you with this book. Then they take the proposal that you presented to them to try to win them, and they tweak it and make it their own a little bit. They need to make sure that that proposal is really a marketing document. That's really all it's about. How can this book and you make me money in book sales? That's what a publisher wants to know. They don't really care about, how much money you're going to make in speaking engagement. They don't care how you're going to leverage it. They don't care about your, creating wealth. They just want to know if this book will sell in a bookstore, if this book will sell online. That's all they want to know about. So you've got to pitch them and prove to them that it will. But you do that by the strength of your marketing proposal that is within your book proposal. So you want to get a good deal. They're also going to be looking at getting rights from your book. So you're going to be giving up all your rights when you publish with somebody else, not all of them. You're going to, you may give up your print rights, your audio rights. You may give up movie rights if you're not careful. There are all kinds of different rights that can go with your book. So you don't want to just allow somebody to walk off with it willy-nilly. You have to have that reviewed, and that's where agency comes in. Your agent can help you to negotiate the right deal. Okay, so one additional thing that they're going to do at the publishing house is they're going to have specific demands and timelines. So then you write the rest of the book, right? You're going to have a timeline for when you need to have the book delivered to the publisher based on what they see and what they say they want. Now, in the case with Susie, for example, we worked with Simon & Schuster, and we wrote an awesome book proposal that garnered her a bidding war because her agent was awesome that we were able to attain, and they were able to get her as a debut author in traditional realm a 6-figure deal. Don't expect that. They say that the average deal, if you're lucky, is $5,000 to $15,000 as a debut author in a traditional publishing house these days. So just keep that in mind. But we were able, she said, I want a 6-figure deal. That was her non-negotiable. And so when she first got a 5-figure offer, she was like, that's nice, but I want a 6-figure deal. So she turned it down. And then her agent was able to create that bidding war that allowed her to sell her book. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the whole traditional publishing process, it can take up to 3 years before you even see your book on the shelf. That's a long time. So what on earth are you going to be doing between now and 3 years from now? If your book is timely and relevant and needs to be out in the marketplace needs to help somebody, needs to do something now, then 36 months is just too far out. It's just too far out. So that's why oftentimes traditional publishing doesn't end up being the best solution for a lot of nonfiction entrepreneurs who want to get a book out. So anyway, neither here nor there. It is a dream for a lot of people to have a traditionally published book. I used to think that a long time ago too. I used to think, oh, I should be published by blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know there was an option to do anything else at first. So anyway, so as an FYI to you, on episode 25 of the Write Something Worthy podcast, I interview Susie Carter. You can hear all of her great information and stories and learn about her process a little more in that episode. So she is just a dynamo with fabulous information to share. So I encourage you to check her out. So yeah, I noticed in the chat a way for connecting with me. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see tanyaloves.me/bestseller. That is a way to actually get on my calendar to have a chat so that we can talk about what direction what path I can set you on so that you can get going. Okay, tanyaloves.me/bestseller. All right. So the ultimate goal for a traditional publisher is the retail sales. They want to get your book. Their actual competitive advantage is distribution. That's really why they are worth anything. They distribute your book to bookstores and places like that. Here's something to consider though. Less than 50% of books are sold in a bookstore. So if a traditional publisher's only distinct competitive advantage is distribution, maybe it's not such a big advantage after all, especially when you consider that it takes 18 to 36 months to get them to get it done, and you get less than 10%, usually 5 to 15 on average, percent of every sale of that book after you earn out any advance you may have been given to write the book in the first place. So in Susie's case, for example, she got a 6-figure deal. She has to sell 6 figures of books before she starts earning any percentage on her contract. So they got to get all their money back before they start paying you a royalty. Whereas you're going to learn that's not the same in self-publishing. All right, to give you a little more info, a background about writing a traditional book or working with a traditional industry, I interviewed on the Write Something Worthy podcast, Rita Rosenkrantz is a literary agent in New York. She's on episode 007 of the Write Something Worthy podcast. So if you want to go check that out, she'll give you the skinny on what goes on in New York and how to get a publishing deal, how to work, how she worked with first-time authors, how to pitch an agent, and all of that. Good habits for authors who are going traditional. So one thing to keep in mind also is that agents don't charge you for their services. That's why your proposal and query to them is so important. They have to see that you are worth their time and effort to sell to a publisher. They have to see that they know somebody. I think I know somebody who would buy this. I think I know somebody who would buy this. I think I know somebody. Because if they can't see that, they're not going to take you on because they don't make money until they get you sold to a publisher. They make money on the commission of the publishing deal. So they can't waste their time on people who aren't going to make them money in a fairly decent bit of time. So that's why the rejection rate is so huge. 1 to 2% of people who pitch their book to somebody actually get through that door and don't end up in a slush pile, which is that circular pile, which is that trash can. So Just keep that in mind. You have to have a strong proposal, strong marketing platform, and a strong commitment to making your book the best thing ever in order to get into the door with an agent. But Rita will share that with you on that podcast. A little free thing for you. So let's talk now about self-publishing. What is the premise of that? That is, instead of having somebody go through and just publish it all and do everything for you, and you're losing total control because you have no control. Oh, by the way, no control over the cover of your book when you go to a traditional publisher. Susie and I we created, because we want to see it to be it, we created a mock cover for her while we were writing the book to inspire us, right? To have it on there. We wanted to do the Wayne Dyer thing. Wayne Dyer would make a cover of his book and then say that, the interior was a foregone conclusion, right? So now the book is written. So we did the same with her book, but by the time their marketing team got through with this thing, it was very different. So I love Susie. I love the content. Can't say I love the cover so very much. But it wasn't our vision. We no longer had control over that. The publisher gets the right to do that. So you lose a lot of your rights when you go to a traditional publisher. Keep that in mind. All right, well, let's look at some of the things you do get by publishing on your own. How long it takes depends on a lot of factors. Your writing schedule, coordinating resources, getting things together, how much work you're doing in your business life, whether or not you got to get up at 4 a.m. to avoid the kids, all this kind of stuff. So it is a challenging process if you do it totally on your own. I have to acknowledge that there are like 1,000 steps that you can take between wanting to write a book and then actually publishing it. So I have to tell you, it is not an easy thing. However, it is doable. And again, working with my image just disappeared. Working with, that's really interesting. So the image that I have on the slide is of this book. It is The Healing Power of Your Mind, or Healing with the Power of Your Mind, I'm sorry, by Chanta Pack. Chanta came to us to get her book done. She now has a beautiful book that shares an awesome story about her healing journey. See, one thing, she did not hog her journey. She shared it. She could have kept all that to herself. Like, why didn't how come you didn't know you were about to die? You should know these things. But no, she was willing to put herself out there and share her story so that she could help others to recognize that there is power that we already possess that can help us in our healing journey. Sure, we can have doctors, but yes, we have the power to heal. And so she went through the process where we had to plan to write the book. We had to get it edited professionally, always a requirement. Your mom's sister, aunt, who is an English teacher in K through 12, is not a professional book editor. Sorry, she may know the English language and she may still be slapping your hand for starting the sentence with "and," but that is not the one who is going to edit your book. You need a professional. You're also going to have it designed professionally. And it's not going to be somebody who is just a graphic designer who can make pretty things, right? That's not enough. It has to be somebody who understands the industry standard requirements for a book. Front matter is a specific thing that goes a certain way on certain pages, certain things are recto, certain things are versa. So you have to put things in certain places to make a difference. And if you have a book that is designed by someone who does not know this, who just makes reports or something like that, you're going to look like an amateur when somebody opens your first book. So we don't want you to do that. Cover design is also important. Back cover copy, I have a blog post about that. Back cover copy is so important. It's prime real estate. What you're doing there is you're getting somebody, you're showing them why this book is so important, why it's important for them to flip it over, open it up, look at that table of contents and see themselves in that book. You need to plan and execute the launch for your book. And we worked with Chanta to make that happen. She decided she wanted to be a bestseller. So that's what she became. She is a #1 bestseller. Part of her dream also included having a foreword for her book written by Dr. Joe Vitale. And she got that dream fulfilled too. So she not only has the best-selling book, it's written, the foreword is written by somebody she adores, and her book is something that's going to make a positive impact in the world for eternity. So note that in the self-publishing process, it could take you 2 months to 10 months to years if you want it to be. I mean, it depends on how long you want to take to write your own book, if you want to do it that way. But there is a way to get it done faster, working with publishing experts to make that happen. And when you are selling your own book, you are actually getting 70% or more of the return on that book. Whereas in the traditional realm, you're getting maybe 5% on the sale of a book. Here, you're getting at least 70%. And most of it is for the distribution that you're giving away that money. So basically, 100% after cost is going back to you. So there's a benefit there for self-publishing in both settings, in traditional and in self-publishing. You're going to have to market the heck out of your book. It's author's responsibility to market the heck out of their books. Now, there is another way to publish that is called hybrid publishing, and it's kind of like a slightly more entrepreneurial approach to traditional publishing. So they still accept your manuscript. They pay higher royalties than they're required to in order to consider themselves hybrids. And they may or may not take as long for production and producing the book. And their distribution is closer to traditional, where they will try to get you into bookstores, airports, all that kind of good stuff, because they build relationships in that way to make that possible. But you may have some author buyback requirements, meaning you may be required to buy 2,000 copies of your own book in order for them to agree to do the book manufacturing process for you. So you pay up front for services. They do the editing, design, layout, and getting it done. And they have the book ready for sale. You still have to market it, launch it, do all that kind of stuff. In some cases, you might also have to edit it. I've worked with some hybrid publishers. For example, one of my clients here, Kathy Manning, she had Eat Ice Cream for Supper, a book about cancer and her journey, and then she did a journey with her husband, and then she had to go through the same journey herself shortly thereafter. Amazing. But she shows how she did that and the resources to do it. And this was done by a hybrid publisher. Hybrid publishers are like Morgan James, Forbes, Greenleaf, She Writes Press. All of those are hybrid publisher types. All right, so let's just look quickly at some, very quickly, at some comparisons between doing it yourself and doing it with a publisher. Their focus is, the publisher, traditional, is looking at book sales. You're looking at impact for the reader and business opportunities. So hopefully you're going to be creating multiple streams of income, and you will be allowed to keep all creative control. You'll be able to say, yeah, that cover looks right for me. No, that's not what I had in mind. Everybody is going to have to market their book no matter which way they go in the publishing realm. Here, in the self-publishing side, you're going to have to do all the legwork. You got to do the project management, and that's where having a publishing team comes in handy. But it all is doable, and you can self-publish a lot quicker. So, who are these people that you need to have on your publishing team? I'm going to try to wrap up swiftly as I can. So who are these people that you have to have on your team? They can include, they do not have to, they can include a ghostwriter, or they can just be the writer, which is you. They have to include editors. I'm sorry, that is a non-negotiable. a professional editor who can edit your book. Absolutely essential. And probably one of the longer processes. You could probably write your book in several weeks if you spent several concentrated hours per day writing your book. But your editor needs to spend several weeks going through that book and making sure that it is the right book for you and for your ideal reader. You have cover designers, you have interior designers to make the inside look industry standard. You can have book marketers to help you, book launchers like Kathy and I in the authority program that we have. You have publicity people and PR people to help to get the word out, build your platform, let the world know you've got this awesome book out there. And financing partners if you need it to fund the whole project. So I have a financing partner that I can introduce you to that helps to make a deal possible for you. If you don't have the funds up front to pay a ghost and do the whole book launch thing, then we have a way to help you to get those funds so that you can go and make it happen. All right, so let's talk about MSIs, multiple streams of income. Now, typically, an average author is only going to sell a couple hundred copies of their book. So there's only so much you can do. But there are other ways that you can make money. For example, obviously the print book sales, but there are ways like selling to colleges, courses that have your topic within those coursework. I know when I taught entrepreneurship at the University of Virginia, I would secure books by experts and entrepreneurs that I could use in the classroom with my students. So selling to colleges is something that people really ought to think about as an additional stream of income. Doing public speaking, obviously a speaking engagement you can leverage with a book. You can have back of room sales when you do it, or you can sell your book to the host or the sponsor of the event so that they will buy everything that's, that they will buy a book for everybody who is in the audience. So that's one way to negotiate. It's also a way to negotiate your fee. If they can't afford your speaking fee, but they have an educational budget, that's a separate line item, they may be able to buy 100 to 1,000 of your books in lieu of a lower speaking fee so that you can create that balance. And then you don't have to do any sales on the floor. You're just there to give your content. So these are just a couple of different ways. Selling to associations that you are a member of. Creating membership programs for people to work through the topics of your book. One of the ways that Susie was able to make so much money was by using her book to create different types of programs that had greater and greater hands-on touch from her. So that is one way that you can leverage your money. Content chunking is something I call it, where you're actually taking pieces of your book and creating opportunities for sales with those pieces. So it's not the whole thing, but it's segments of your book. Courses, obviously, selling them as educational materials for others, ebook sales, and don't forget audiobook sales. That's one thing that audiobooks are like growing at a double-digit rate and will continue to do so for the next several years. So don't forget that your book can also become an audiobook. And again, you do not have to be the narrator of your own audiobook if you don't wish to be. You don't have to be the narrator of your own book. So you can have somebody narrate that book for you, read it beautifully, and get it out into the world in audio form, because a lot of people like to listen on their way to work, right? Or listen while they're commuting and whatnot, even though they want to get your book read, but they don't have time to sit down and read it. So now you have that audiobook opportunity, and it creates different sales opportunities for you, entirely different. So these are just a variety of ways. You might want to screenshot it so that you can remember to ask me about them in a free call that I'm offering, which is at tanyaloves.me/bestseller. So if you want to talk about these things, we can. Also, my episode 70 of the Write Something Worthy podcast, we talk about some of those MSIs. So one last tip. When you're writing to serve, it equals success. And the reason is you are getting very clear on your ideal reader, and you want to write your book directly to her. And when you do that, you think about what do you want that reader to be able to do or be or have as a result of having your book in their hands. And when you do that, then you outline your book to align with that, and then you write to that outline. Makes it easier, and it makes it service based. And my Bebop program is one of the ways that I help authors to do that. In the strategic coaching, we go through that and help them to do that. But one thing that is really clear is that when authors really get clear on who they're serving, they serve them better. And then they have greater success in serving them, because then they're not trying to be everything to all people. They're focusing their energies on their ideal reader. And when you do that, your ideal reader will see themselves in that book and then share it with others. So, all right. I'm going to let you go. I tried to give as much as I could. I apologize for being a little bit long. I hope whoever wants to stay on and ask a few questions, please know that I will stay here and answer a few questions. But what I want you to do after today, I want you to reflect on what you learned, anything that piqued your interest. I want you to think about, what would it feel like to be a best-selling author? Again, if you've already done it, but what would it feel like to have that status? What would it feel like to see everyone loving your book? And then I want you to schedule a call with me, a free strategy call. TanyaLoves.me/bestseller will get you to my scheduling page. And I created several different slots over the next few days so that you can get yourselves in there and take action now, and not wait for another 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, 6 months to start getting your book done. So if you want or really need to learn more, then please, please, please schedule that call with me so that we can have a conversation about your next bestseller. And I want to thank you for your time today. And I think I fulfilled my promise trying to give you as much as I possibly could. So I hope that you receive that, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Michael, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. It is now yours. I'm going to stop the share.
Wow, you got me writing a book now. Uh, I
Good.
haven't been waiting 10 or 15 years. That was kind of interesting, seeing people that have, started writing a book and it's been 15 years that they've just had this information and haven't moved forward with it. Seems a little crazy, but I can see where they get a bit intimidated also. So a lot of fantastic information. Does anybody have questions for Tanya? You're welcome to uh, unmute yourself and ask away, or put your hand up, whichever way you choose to do it.
JC?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much. This was actually so helpful. I'm in this world, this space, but there's so much to unpack here. Anyway, I'm on your website, and I'm signing up to call you because I think we can actually collaborate in a lot of ways, and I know you can help me. So when you say a bestseller, what platform are you talking about? Are you talking about Amazon?
I am in this particular case.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, because I know there's an artistry to it, and I have not unlocked that code. And I'm waiting to do my own second memoir, but I have numerous clients I'm ghostwriting and book coaching for. And I'm holding on my memoir because I want to, that's the key. That's the last thing I need to master. And now I'm so busy, I can't, that's why I got on here, because I'm like, I have to learn this, but I'd rather have you just do it.
And it's so much easier, believe me. Than
I know. I'm thinking I'm going to have to do that, and you can do that for the clients too. But anyway, I love that you did this for us. I know how many years it took you to master this. So I honor that. And I really appreciate you. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll talk.
All right.
Great, great. I saw another hand a second ago. Marissa.
my question is pretty simple, but Tanya, what point in the idea process would be best to meet with you? If it's something that's really fleshed out, or what would be your ideal spot to meet with somebody, I guess is my question.
Well, to be honest, if you have an idea that you need to bring out, part of what I have the ability to do is draw those kinds of things out for clients so I can help them to get that initial thought process going and decide really what it is that they are wanting to make happen. And then they can spend a little bit of time with that if they need to, and then we can continue on from there. So start at the beginning. I got an idea, now what?
Okay, so basically there's no bad time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's good to know, because I wouldn't have a clue where to even start. Will, good to see you.
Hello there.
Greetings.
A question for you. Can you elaborate a little bit on the kind of the ghostwriting process and how do you basically interview somebody, so to speak, and you know how you draw it out of them, or do you look for notes from us, or what?
It depends. So the process is that we meet, first of all, to figure out the strategy and alignment for what it is that you're trying to produce and for whom, and so forth and so on. So we want to identify your goals first, and then we work to writing the outline that's going to allow us to achieve that goal. And we do that together just in phone conversations. And then once the outline is established, then we meet and interview for chapter by chapter to work through. This is how I do it. There are a lot of ghosts who work in a lot of different ways. But then we work chapter by chapter to work through the manuscript, taking your information out of your head, where I'm asking you questions, I'm drawing information out of you. If you also happen to have, like one of my clients that I'm working on a book now, she also teaches what she's going to be writing about. So she's got some content from her presentations that she wants to incorporate. But what we found, like especially with Susie's book, for example, she had 20 years of content. It would have taken me another year to go through all of her stuff to see what could be used, right? So our best approach, what we decided to do is, okay, you've got the kitchen sink. We only want one. We only want the soap dish. So let's just focus on writing one book, not three. And we interviewed through that and pulled in what was necessary to support it. So then I'm not going through 20 years of content in order to try to whittle it down to what's relevant. She sees where she wants it to go and what the result is supposed to be. And then we interview through that process. And it could be 90 minutes every other week. It could be 2 hours a month. It really depends on the scheduling for the author. So the timing is just relevant. It's comfortable. It's whatever suits you. And it can be by phone. It doesn't have to be by Zoom. I record, I transcribe. So then I have your voice and your words. And it allows me then to start getting that out and down onto the page. And we work through that for months and months, depending on how big it is. If it's going to be a 60,000 word manuscript, for example, we'll be working for several months over the time to pull all that information out. We'll lay it down into a first draft. You review that and you say, oh yeah, let me add this piece here, or oh, I forgot this story. Let's do that. And we work through that. And then we modify that before and get solid on the content. And once we feel like this is it, then we move it on through the rest of the book publishing process. So easy peasy for you. It's just phone call. Oh, I got to call Tanya today. I'm writing my book today. I got to call Tanya. That's all it is. Makes it really easy.
I would imagine one has to kind of be in the proper headspace, though.
It helps. And part of what I do sometimes is give homework so that you can have some things together and some thoughts together already before we get into our calls, so that then it's just a matter of just drawing it out of you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Shermo Ward, welcome.
Greetings.
Hello. Hi, Miss Tanya. Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Good, good. How about you?
Wonderful. Thank you for the wonderful information that you presented to us, Ms. Tanya. You always have gems that you drop. Thank you also for having me on your podcast to basically represent my book, Conversation with Me, and the book signing.
Right.
So thank you for that. I'm so appreciative to you. You have been just like a gem to me. I do have a question. As we talked before, I used a publishing company. So I want to know, what are some of the best ways to get out of that contract?
You used a publishing company to do your, yeah, see, that's not always easy, but sometimes it is doable. It really may require reviewing that contract and seeing where those bonds are and see whether or not they fulfill theirs so that you can make sure you can determine whether or not you'll be able to get out of yours. Now, the other thing is some publishers really don't really want to have you forever. And so they're like, you know what, if you want your book back, you want your titles back and all that kind of stuff here, we'll just call it a day. I've already been paid for your services, so I can go ahead and give you your book back. It really depends. So I would consider making sure you have somebody who reviews that contract with you, and then have a forward-thinking, positive conversation with the publisher with the intention that they're going to just let you go, and then seek to make that so. And then if you need legal backup to support that, then do that. But yeah, there are a lot of publishers locked into things. I mean, a lot of authors that are locked into publishing deals, and their books are locked up for like ever. And that's the other thing you have to be careful about when you make the contract in the first place. Do I want this person, this company, holding on to my book for 5 years, especially if they're not moving it, if they're not selling it, if they're not marketing it? Then why do I want them to have control of it for so long? So you might give them a window that you've got to sell by a certain amount. You've got to move this many books, or else I'm pulling my book out. Then they're going to perform, or they let it go. So I really wish you the best on that. And if you can't find a legal way out of it, then try to maximize the heck out of it while you have it. Just make them work and get what you need out of that book deal until you can get your book back.
It's interesting that you
Thank
say
you.
that, because I've seen them even tie up, through copyright, where people can't even speak on stage. They can't share their own content because that content is in their book, and X publisher owns the rights to that content. They can't share things on social media without copyright infringement, should the publisher, really want to push in that direction. So that's really interesting you brought that up. It is something that I've seen happen on more than one occasion. So
yeah, it really is important to have a good review of those contracts, just to make sure you're covered.
Wade, you got a question?
I sure do. Hi, Tanya. Thanks for presenting today.
Absolutely.
I am in the personal finance space as a coach and mentor, have been for 18 years, and I'm on the cusp of building a thought leadership platform. Need to have at least an ebook of sorts, something that's maybe even as little as 50 pages. I don't know. So my question is, what's the scope of service that you offer? Do you do simple ebook versus full-length books? And what range of preference do you have in the way you ghostwrite?
Actually, yes, I do everything from just the back cover copy to a full book. So yes, we can go all the way through. One of the programs that we have that I have with my partner, Kathy Kay, is the authority package, where we work with small books, short reads by Amazon standards, which are 20,000 words or less, which is 100 pages or less. And we help to get those through the bestseller status. You don't have to do bestseller status with anything. You can choose to. But if you do, you're going to be a bestseller, so you have to deal with that. But one thing to keep in mind is that it doesn't matter what the size is. It can be done. It needs to be edited. It still needs to go through the process so that it looks as though it is a bestseller worthy book, regardless of the size. One colleague of mine even has these cute little instant books. This is by Keiko O'Leary, which you can create. That's how small a book can be. And it's something that you can actually sell on your website because it answers one question, provides one solution that somebody needs. So a book only needs to be as long as it takes to do that, right? So it is okay to have a small ebook. We can still help you to edit it, lay it out, get it designed, get it launched, etc.
Very cool. And would you be okay sharing like maybe a range of costs that might be included for ghostwriting for simpler books versus full-length books?
Wow, it just totally depends on so many different factors. Wow.
That might be a better question to follow up personally.
Yeah, maybe you could sign up at tanyaloves.me/bestseller, and I can try to get you a more nuanced response to that, because everything I do really is for the project, per the project. And so I don't do a lot of ballparking, which is another reason why you don't just see, oh, click here to get a calculation and this is what you're going to do, because I don't do that. It really depends. I also do sample edits so that I can make sure that the content is something, one, that I want to absorb 3 times because I'm going to be reading it 3 times. And also so I can see whether or not the level of quality is there already for me to take on that project, and then how much that project's going to cost as a result. So there's so many variables in there. It just depends. You can spend nothing with some really crappy people, or you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with the best ghostwriter in the world. So,
all right, thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Excellent, excellent. My friend Charles up there has his hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Ms. Tanya, thank you for the training.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I tuned in. The question that I have is, unfortunately, I have a book that is coming out from another publisher. And the question really becomes, for the book that I have that is kind of in limbo, how is the future book impacted if the first book that people read isn't to the standards of a bestseller or to the standards that you are accustomed as a ghostwriter / person who's behind the scenes helping the author become a bestseller? How's that book, the next book, impacted?
It could create a negative impact, to be honest, because somebody who has downloaded, for example, a previous book and they thought, good content, but God, I can't get through all these errors, or what the heck were they thinking when they formatted this thing? I can't even read it. That does have an impact then on the impression, right? First impressions, you never get a second chance. You can't get those back. However, I did a speaking engagement once in LA for a conference where there were a bunch of internet marketers. And someone there had a book that they had done that they had based their entire beginning of their business on. But they realized after a conversation, I did the nuts and bolts of editing as part of one of the presentations I did there. And they said, oh my gosh, this is horrible. My book is horrible. What can I do about this? I'm so embarrassed. I don't even want to promote it anymore. So what I did was I redid the book so that then anything else that came out on Amazon was the new book. The old one was there, and that's tough. Somebody had to get that crap. But now, from now on, it's looking good, right? So we can redo the old stuff to make it fit industry standards, to make it look good, to make it read well, to make it clean and acceptable and in alignment with your next bestseller worthy book. So that is possible.
So it's basically just a second edition.
In a sense, although second editions have to have a certain percentage of actual change, but it could literally just be a replacement, period. We're replacing this, you don't look at that one anymore. Look at this one. That's it.
Yeah, I literally, so I was an author in a book with 12 other authors. That book went fine. That was great. That was several years ago. But what I have recently written and submitted that is about to be published, having heard you today, causes me great concern about that book. And it is literally in the publisher's hand. So
Is it possible? Is it possible that you can pull it back? Is it possible that you can get more time on publication so that we can take a look at it and see what needs to be done to make it truly representative of you and bestseller worthy? Because it's not out there yet. If they're not done yet, maybe it pisses them off. Maybe it delays that you don't get out until some next round of their releases. But if you're going to allow something that you know is substandard and not worthy of you to get out there, when you have a chance to yank it back, even if it means yanking it back might cost you something in some way or another, time or money, I'd yank it back. I would see what you could do to get it back so that you could get it into the condition that it needs to be before it gets released, because you don't want anything to reflect poorly on you.
How does that impact, though, if I did that, if I'm able to do that, how does that impact all of the other components of the contract? So, for example, I have 3 free radio spots. I have other mediums for promoting the book. So how would that impact all of that, or would it?
It may. It depends. Now, you don't need a published book to have a radio show. For example, I have a book that I'm writing for dementia caregivers, and I will be on podcast before the book is even in the design phase, let alone published. So, and as a matter of fact, I was on a radio show years and years and years ago. This is really old. When Tim Ferriss was doing his 4-hour work week, he was doing interview after interview after interview, hadn't even written the book yet. He was using the content and the feedback from those interviews to write the book.
Yep.
I was on a radio show the same day. Now, why I'm not as big a bestseller and well-known name, I don't know. But anyway. But so some of those things don't have to stop just because the book is not ready. That's okay. Some of those things can continue. What you just have to do is be able to negotiate what will continue and what won't until the book is ready.
That's right.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. They haven't sent me my copy yet, so and or copies. So I will see what I can do. I'll literally write them today and see if I can. But again, having heard you today, my concern is that, as you said, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So that's my concern. And I do, and especially with the second book that's sitting, I'm trying to have a bestseller with that one. Thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, and feel free to connect with me. Get on a free coaching call with me so we can see what we need to do to make your next bestseller, next book, an actual bestseller. So
share your contact information one more time, Tanya.
it is tanyaloves.me, and I'll try to type it as I say it, /bestseller, all one word, tanyaloves.me /bestseller.
Perfect. So, many people, Charles isn't the only one that's a stickler for detail and perfection. Okay, a lot of people have that. Tanya's one of those people. She gets on my tail all the time. You can't put that out there. There's a misspelling. There's a thing missing. I'm like, we have a deadline. It has to go, and I have to put it out there, and then I have to go back and correct. But much to Charles's point, you don't get a chance to have a second first impression. When it's out and people see it, they've seen it, and now that's a reflection of not only who you are, but maybe it goes to your credibility and things too. So you want to be careful putting stuff out there that's not right. So if you have questions about that, or anything that you want to follow up, or have Tanya take a peek at something, or provide you an opinion, maybe she might be available to do that. So jump on her calendar and at least run it past her, or if not Tanya, then someone else. But very valid points. My grandmother, many years ago, she was an editor on a military base, but she was comfortable editing military documents, but I would not have had her edit a book for me. So, you want to have the proper editor for what it is that you're doing. If you're doing nonfiction, you want a nonfiction editor. So just keep that in mind as well. Is very important. So I thank everybody for showing up. Tanya, I thank you very much for the information that you provided. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Tanya. But you know, thank you for attending the Influence Equation, leveraging your new bestseller. And it's been a pleasure having you. I hope that you took away a ton of valuable information. And if you have any questions, you know how to reach us. So, again, the playback will be available. I'm going to send that out to everybody that registered for the event to make sure that if you have something that you missed, you didn't write it down, you didn't understand it completely, you're able to play that back or play it for a friend, family, neighbor, whatever, business associate as well. So that'll be on our YouTube channel. So Tanya, thank you very much. I learned a ton, and it was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been wonderful. I enjoyed it so much. Thanks everyone for being here and being so attentive. I really appreciate your presence. Thank you.